For small teams and solo founders, onboarding and offboarding usually means emails, spreadsheets, and someone forgetting a step. Today, we're going to build a workflow that handles onboarding and offboarding, writes your HR emails with AI, waits for manual approval, and then talks Calendly for you. It's like hiring a tiny HR robot that loves paperwork. Before we open n8n, let's understand the logic in plain language. We actually have two flows sharing the same brain. For the onboarding flow, here's what happens behind the scene. First, someone fills out a simple onboarding form with their first name, last name, and email. As soon as they hit submit, we add a new row into a Google Sheet. That sheet becomes our source of truth for who should have Calendly access. Then an AI agent takes that information and writes a professional email for your HR manager, with all the user details included. The email is sent through Gmail, and the workflow actually processes and waits for HR to approve, so it still maintains a loop. Automation doesn't remove control. If HR clicks approve, n8n calls the Calendly API and automatically sends an invitation to add this person into your Calendly organization. Once that's done, we go back to the Google Sheet and update the Calendly column to on. So at the end of this onboarding flow, the user is inside Calendly. HR has a clean email record of the approval, and the Google Sheet shows that this person's access is turned on. Now let's look at the offboarding flow, which turns access off. This time, the process starts even simpler. Someone fills an offboarding form with just one field, the email. Once they submit, the workflow immediately checks the same Google Sheet we used for onboarding. If that email doesn't exist, or if the user doesn't currently have Calendly access, the workflow simply stops. There's no reason to bother HR for a user who's already gone. But if the user does exist, our AI agent jumps in again and writes a clean professional onboarding email for HR, telling them this is a removal request that needs approval. Gmail sends that email and waits, just like onboarding, until HR clicks approve. Once approval comes through, n8n calls the Calendly API, finds our user inside the organization, and deletes their membership automatically. After Calendly confirms the removal, we update the Google Sheet Calendly to off. And if you want to keep your sheet tidy, you can even have the workflow delete that row entirely. The end result, Calendly access is revoked. Your sheet stays clean and accurate, and HR has a complete approval trial for clients. For small team or agency, this means no more "did we remember to remove them?" because every step is structured, logged, and fully auditable. Okay, let's start here with onboarding form trigger. If you look closely, this node is just creating a super simple web form with three fields: first name, last name, and email. Notice the email field is typed as email, so the browser automatically validates it for us. The reason we do this is very straightforward. We want anyone, HR, managers, even a completely non-technical assistant, to be able to onboard a new person without touching n8n and without logging into Calendly. They just open this URL, fill out the form, click submit, and the workflow takes over. Let's test this node. And n8n opens a form with three fields. I just enter some random value here. Then hit submit, and it says form submitted, your response has been recorded. Close the tab, and you can see the value here. Next up, this flows into a Google Sheet node. The operation here is set to append, which means every time the form is submitted, we add a brand new row at the bottom of the sheet. And we need to map each column manually. The date has been simplified, and we can just map these fields like this: first name, last name, and email. We'll leave Calendly empty. So this Google Sheet becomes a running log of every single onboarding event, who they are, who they joined, and so on. For small business or agency, this spreadsheet basically becomes your user access registry. Besides that, we add a simple set node called set Calendly organization. All it does is store your Calendly organization ID as a string. Why do we do this? Because if your Calendly organization ID ever changes, you do not want to dig through 5 different HTTP nodes trying to replace it manually. By keeping it in one place, you update the ID once, and every API call automatically picks up the new value. To get your organization ID, you first need to get an access token in Calendly. Hit Integrations and type API in the search bar, and click API and webhooks, and create a new token. Copy it, then you need to send a GET request to Calendly to get your organization ID. Open the HTTP request node. Under Authentication, select Generic Credential Type, and for the auth type, choose Barrier Auth, and then hit Create New Credential, and paste your token in the input box. Then hit Save, close the tab, and run the node. Then you will get your organization ID here. Copy the string and paste it here. And finally, we'll bring these two branches together using a merge node. One branch contains the user data from the form. The other branch contains the Calendly organization configuration. We merge them using combine all possible combinations, which basically means take everything from the left, everything from the right, and combine it into one unified item. Now the final merged item, which now contains both the user information and the Calendly organization ID, is exactly what we'll pass into the AI email writer and then into Gmail for the approval flow. Alright, now we get to the fun part. The AI generated HR email. Here I'm using a Google Gemini AI agent. Inside the prompt, I inject the three values we captured from the form: first name, last name, and email. And in the system messages, I'm giving the model very strict instructions. Write a professional HTML email for HR. Make it clear this step requires manual approval. And most importantly, output only the HTML. No explanation, no markdown, nothing else. The reason we do this is really simple. We want the AI's output to drop straight into Gmail as the actual message body without any extra formatting or cleanup. Next up, the raw HTML gets passed into Gmail through this node called email man in the loop onboarding. The operation here is send and wait for response. That's the magic that makes the whole approval flow work. We set to your HR or operations email. Subject, start Calendly onboarding for user. First name, last name. Message, the HTML output directly from the AI node. Response type, approval. And type of approval we choose approve and disapprove. And the wait time we set to 45 minutes. Here's the key thing. Send and wait for response literally pauses the workflow and waits until HR clicks approve or reject right inside the email. So even though this workflow is automated, you still have a human in control of access, which is exactly what most small companies want: automation without accountability. Once Gmail receives the HR decision, we flow into this if node called approve onboarding. All it does is check whether approved is true. If HR approved the request, we continue into the Calendly API call to actually invite the new user. If HR rejects it, we simply show a not approved confirmation page and optionally log the rejection for auditing. If HR rejects it, it will find the row containing the new user and then delete it based on the row number. Now on the approved branch, we move into this HTTP request node called add user to Calendly. This is the part where n8n actually talks to Calendly API. Here's what we are doing. Method we choose post, and this is the API endpoint we need to send the request to. For the authentication, we choose barrier auth just like before. And for the request body, we just need to add the user email. The reason we do it this way is simple. We want Calendly to remain the source of truth for who actually has access, but we want n8n to be the one that decides when someone gets added. Once Calendly confirms that the invitation went through, we update our internal source of truth, the Google Sheet. Operation, we choose update row. The matching column, we choose email, and we set Calendly on. So now the spreadsheet shows this user exists and their Calendly access officially turned on. And finally, we wrap up the entire process with a form completion note. This shows a simple thank you page that says onboarding complete. So whoever fills the form knows the workflow finished successfully. So the full onboarding path looks like this: form, sheet, AI-generated email, HR approval, Calendly invites, sheet updates, confirmation page. A complete onboarding cycle, fully automated, but still HR approved. Let's mirror the logic for offboarding. First, we start with offboarding form. And you'll notice this form is even simpler. There's only one required field, email. This keeps the process extremely easy for HR. If someone leaves the company, they don't need to dig up any details. They just type the email, submit the form, and the workflow handles everything else. As the form runs, we immediately check our Google Sheet using this node called Get Rows in Sheets. We apply two filters. Email must match the form email, and Calendly must be on. This makes sure we only try to offboard users who actually exist and who currently have Calendly access. Then the result flows into this if1 node. This node checks one thing: does roll number exists? And then automatically add roll number to matched items. So if the email doesn't exist or the user never had access, roll number will be missing. In that case, we simply stop the workflow and show user not found message, and we don't bother the AI or HR at all. But if the user does exist, we follow the same pattern as onboarding. First, we pass the data into Google Gemini AI agent, which generates a clean HTML offboarding email for HR. Next, Gmail sends the email using send and wait again, just like in the onboarding flow. The subject might look like start Calendly offboarding for user, first name, last name, and the approve type is set to double, approve and disapprove. That means offboarding, just like onboarding, always goes through HR before any access is removed. Once HR makes a decision, the workflow moves into approve onboarding node. This node checks if approved equals true. If it's rejected, we show the user a simple offboarding not approved page using form n8n. If it's approved, then the workflow continues straight to the Calendly API to begin the access removal process. After HR approves the offboarding, we move into the actual access remove chain. First, we make sure we have the correct Calendly organization ID using this node. Then we look up the user inside Calendly with this HTTP request node, get Calendly user. We take the result and feed it straight into delete Calendly user. Here the message changes to delete, and the URL is simple, and this is a real remove step. This call actually kicks the user out of your Calendly organization. Once Calendly confirms the deletion, we update our internal record in Google Sheets through this node called offboarding. We match by email, and we set Calendly to off. So it should now shows that this person no longer has Calendly access. And finally, we wrap everything up with the n8n page offboarding node. This shows a simple confirmation page, so the requester instantly knows that offboarding is complete, and the user has been fully removed. Let's see what this looks like in real life. I open the onboarding form, type in our first name, last name, and email. And click submit. Instantly, the row appears in my Google Sheet with today's date. And a few seconds later, HR received a beautiful HTML email generated by AI. with all the details and the approve reject button. And here I click approve. The workflow wakes up, calls the Calendly API, and adds this email to the organization. There are sheet flips Calendly from blank to on. For a small company or a solo founder with contractors, this gives you an enterprise-style access control without hiring a full-time IT team. I've bundled this workflow, the sample HR email prompts, and are ready to copy Google Sheet template into my free school community, AI automation community. Check the link in the description to download it and customize it for your team. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.